Hey, it's Rishi Patel, founder of Selling in Alignment, where I help coaches and consultants to price and package their products and services using the black belt mindset so they can discover and live their purpose. Today, I'm joined by Hayley Wheeler as we look through her journey with Selling in Alignment. Hayley sheds a light on the power of harnessing and connecting emotions with the mind for peak performance in business, sports, and life. Hayley's perspective is gained from her own battle, which she won, to take back control of her emotions and mind to ditch depression. Ever since doing so, Hayley has become an emotional empowerment coach, motivational speaker, workshop facilitator, and author. Most importantly, she's an innovator and pioneer in the field of emotional and mental health with proven success using her emotion-mind dynamic 6-step process. Hayley has her own podcast called Self-Knowledge is a Superpower and is currently a finalist for the Mental Health and Wellbeing Wales Awards. Audiences are inspired by her open, honest journey in which she shares her reflections of her personal experience from rock bottom to the top of her world. Hayley sheds a light on the power of harnessing and connecting emotions with the mind for peak performance. Let's talk to Hayley. So Hayley, thank you for coming all the way down from Wales. I really appreciate you making the effort, and this is the first time we've met in person, and so I just really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to do this with you.
Thank you. So Hayley, let's go all the way back to the beginning. And I'd love to know, what was your first interaction with Selling in Alignment? What was your first interaction with me?
Well, we met through Changemaker, and just watching you grow and develop from the early stages was really exciting. And I knew we were very different in the way that we were developing businesses. And I had a little bit of envy, I suppose, watching you, the way that you brought all your details together. And then I started to realise just how much of an ideal client I was for you. So as your products were developing, it was really exciting for me because I knew I wanted to work with you, and because I'd known you before, the trust was already there. So when you launched the beta workshop, I knew I had to be on it.
So brilliant and well said. And that beta workshop was really fantastic for coaches and consultants because it was called How Do You Price and Package Your Products and Services, specifically for coaches and consultants. And I'm so glad, as an emotional empowerment coach, that you came onto that and got so much benefit from it. So it was great to have you on there. And so then we decided that we'd work together, and you took on this beta program, which it's now completely finalized. I've crystallized it. And if again, I take you all the way back to the beginning, when we first started, and even before we first started, what was the transformation you wanted in your business? So let's say, if you could have waved a magic wand at that time and you could say, hey, Rishi, I want to transform this thing, or I want to transform these 3 things, what would that have been for you?
The main one thing for me was selling. I hated selling. And I think I'd said to you before, it was the visual I had of a salesperson just didn't fit with how I wanted to present myself, I suppose, to clients. So that was one of the biggest things, because the sales obviously weren't leading to clients, and then for me it meant not doing the work. So that was a really big thing for me.
I understand that, in fact, not probably just for you, but for many coaches out there, selling is really something that challenges people and confronts people. And I like to think of it as transformation. I
didn't see it like that. And I think working with you has allowed me to be able to see the difference as well between sales and serving. And I think when you told me that at one point, you said about sales, look at it as serving as opposed to sales, that changed a lot for me, because sales to me is sleazy, but not at any point in time has it felt like that working with you.
Working with you was really a unique experience for me as well, because with your product, Emotion Mind Dynamic, we are really working with people who are in a vulnerable space. And it was really interesting for me to observe, how do we approach that now from a sales perspective, from a perspective of transformation for people to get them results and still hold the space for them for where they are in their journey. How did you find that balance?
It was tough at first. I didn't find it easy to be able to work with somebody in the early stages and to bring them on board in. So that was really tough at first, but it was having those discussions, and I think having that back and forth with you made me understand what it takes to, I'm going to say, manage vulnerabilities, because they are vulnerable when they come to me, and I had some issues around that with working with vulnerable people and how to sell to them. So changing that was a really big thing for me, changing the idea of it being selling, and actually it's transformation, it's helping them in their journey as well. So that was a big shift, and it took a long time. Probably it was a little bit frustrating, I would imagine, from your perspective.
And no, not at all. And I think that's part of being a coach, is really, holding the space for the people that we're working with. And I can really relate to, where you were in that journey. And I've worked with so many people who have completely transformed their relationship around selling is actually just serving. And it's amazing. So well done on really striking that balance. I'd love to talk a little bit about being on the phone. And I know one of the things that you've started to create a transformation around is being on the phone. And if it's okay, I'd just love to quote you on a coaching session that we had. And I've just pulled out a little quote here for you, where you said, "I think my nerves get in the way when I'm on the phone. So I email first to ask permission to ring. I've never liked the phone. It's been really hard for me." So I'd just love to know a little bit more about the transformation that you've started to bring about with that.
So the phone was always, it's been a massive issue for me for a long time. Before mobile phones, I hated cold calling. I've done jobs where I was supposed to pick up the phone with people. So when you were kind of telling me you need to pick up the phone, there was a huge dread. It just started in my stomach and it spread. But now I'm getting used to picking up the phone and having those conversations. Maybe it's the confidence of knowing what I'm going to say. Probably more the confidence that I know that people are wanting to work with me. I think I had that block as well. Did they really want to work with me? Am I intruding on their lives? I don't feel like that anymore. So that's a huge transformation.
Wow, and it sounds like it as well. So you just completely transitioned headspaces there.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember when it happened as well. It was quite recent. So we've been working together for a while. So it took me a long time to get to that point. But I think we had a lot of foundational work to do prior to that. So I'm not surprised it took me so long. But I'm still working on it. It's still not my comfort zone yet. But that's what I'm working on it being, is a comfort zone.
So really well done on transitioning headspaces around the telephone. And, something that we really picked up on early on was that, you talked about it already, your relationship with what the industry calls selling, what I love to call transformation, what I love to call service. So tell me a little bit about, your perception of what sales was for you right at the beginning of this process.
I hated it. I hated sales, but it's from that being in contact with sales in the 80s and the 90s when I grew up, and it was really sleazy, and I always felt it was a forced thing. I've been approached by people who are sleazy and are trying to force you into a purchase. And it always makes my stomach curdle and my spine just go up. So I suppose that was always underlying when we talked about sales. And then it changed, because how you described it, actually how you've role modelled selling to me, a sales pitch or a discussion around sales, just wasn't the same experience. And that changed everything for me.
Amazing. And so then we started to get you on the phone a little bit more, and we just took you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And so then, as a result of doing that, something that came up was around objection handling. And so you had customers give you objections in why they don't want to move forward, and it's a completely natural part of the sales process. We looked at the fact that objections start internally, and whatever's happening with us personally, internally, normally gets externally reflected. And so person, situation, circumstance will show up as something that's happening internally. And I just want to quote you again on what your realization was, because I think it was so profound. Well, it started with a calm feeling. Jacqueline and I had a discussion about it, and I had this calm feeling descend, and it hasn't gone. It's amazing because it's allowing me to do things in a very different way, instead of jumping in with things and doing things as I would normally haphazardly. So I just love you to tell me a little bit more about the huge shift that you had around that.
The phone was just a huge, I can feel it in my stomach how I used to feel. And just being able to take a step back and understand what I want to get out of the phone call, but also what I want the client to get out of the phone call, rather than investing in the nerves. And I think the investment in the nerves was what was reflected outwardly.
Right.
I can think of the phone call that you sat in on. It was awful for me, even though I'm a learner who likes to try things and do things. Doing that was a bad experience for me. But what was really good was your feedback, was having that, for you to be able to say, look, try this. If they say this, try this. That was good for me. That's what I need. I need somebody who's able to say to me, do this, do that, try this, try that. So I have a reference point. So that was a really good exercise, even though it felt awful at the time.
Amazing. And well done for really embracing it and making the most out of it. Hayley, one of the things that we visited really early on in this journey was how much of a contribution you are to people. And I do this exercise with coaches and consultants where I get them to look at all of the achievements that they've made, as an individual, as an expert in their field. And we looked at all of that. And something that was there for me is that your clients want to hang around with you. They want to be in your energy. They want to spend time with you. They want to be associated with you. And I remember telling you all of these things. What was that experience like, hearing that, the first time, and where are you with that now?
Well, if I was to say I didn't believe it, that would be the truth. I didn't think that was the case, and I think that comes back to that feeling of intruding on people if I phone them. So when you said that, I was like, okay, that's great. But actually, I think it was about anything between 2 weeks and a month later, I did the first licensing training, and it was the workshop to invite them on to the training. And the 3 of them that were invited all said the same thing as you'd said. They reflect exactly what you'd said. And it was the first time that not that I thought you were lying, but I thought, okay, there must be some truth in this. Because I didn't think that they would feel so grateful for being invited to work with me and be one of my licensees. But you'd already said that. And sometimes it takes a few times to hear that for it to sink in. But sinking in, I just felt humbled, really, that that's the way people feel about me.
And I could see it right from the beginning. And it's great that it was reaffirmed back to you by one of your clients. So I'm so happy to hear that. Hayley, anyone that knows about my stuff knows that I talk a lot about the black belt mindset. And the black belt mindset is a set of 3 principles. So we start with intention, then we get balance, and then we have flow. And you can't have the next one without the prior. So we will start with setting a good intention. We bring a balance in our approach, in every aspect of the way we approach the business. And so we touch on flow. How would you say that you've experienced these in your business over the last couple of months?
Just with working with you, the intention, I've had to be more intentional in what I'm doing, because obviously there was homework and there was things to produce. Haven't always produced them on time, but actually it's brought about the ability to be balanced in the way that I'm managing my business. But then that's bringing in the cash flow, the client flow. So I'm seeing it all work step by step, and it's just a cycle, really, because you have to keep being intentional, you have to keep balanced, and you have to then bring in the flow. And
I can really see that you've touched on elements of really experiencing that flow, and I'm so happy to see that for you. So well done, once again, for all of the work that you've put into that. When we have the onboarding to this process, to this program, I often ask coaches and consultants to really visit their personal values. So those can sometimes be different from the business values. We did this together where we really went to town on what are your personal values. And alongside that, we set some very precision, laser-focused goals. Tell me a little bit about that experience for you.
I think the biggest thing I learned from the values exercise was how conflicted I was within my values. And when we started to look at how the conflicting values were affecting how I sold or was selling to people, that was really important. It was a real eye-opener as well to see the conflict within one value. But being able to understand that allowed me to change it. And I think that was the most important thing, was being able to change something that I didn't even know existed prior to that conversation. So not that I changed my values, I didn't. The values remain the same. It's just understanding what it means that there's a conflict within those values. And it really meant that I wasn't being loyal to my business, I was being loyal to my fears. And that was a big change. That needed to change. It wasn't something I knew that needed changing, but once I did, it became quite a big challenge, really. But and it was one of the things we worked on for a long time. But since changing, I think it just everything, all the things are dropping into place now, in line with the black belt mindset.
And look at the awareness that you've brought to this process. It's just so great to see how self-aware you are around this. And I guess it ties in with what you do professionally as well, which obviously really helps us both. So well done again on just bringing that real awareness to this whole process and leveling the game up. And then we also set some goals as well for revenues. And I think this is a very important part of the process, not because we're in it just for the money, but because we really need to bring around a focus around where do we want to get to. So we get focused, we get clear, but we detach from that goal. And that's, in essence, that's what flow is. So I know you set some pretty big revenue targets for yourself this year compared to prior years. And at the time of making this, I know you're not only on track to achieving these, but then also actually on track to surpassing them as well. How does that make you feel? Just
really excited, because I didn't think it was possible. When we started, I was reluctant. I would even go as far as to say I was resistant to working with the numbers. I didn't want to see the numbers. And actually, when we first did them, I had far exceeded my first quarter, and I didn't even know it. In fact, I thought I hadn't got anywhere near my goal of the first quarter. So that was a really big surprise to see that I'd surpassed it by quite a bit.
Yes, it really was quite a bit. And I remember that conversation clearly, because and I could detect the resistance in you to wanting to look at these numbers. And we just held the space, and you really just looked at it, and we looked at, and I remember clearly that quarter one, 117% of where you wanted to be. So not only meeting that objective, but then surpassing it as well. So well done.
It was a good foundation though, wasn't it, to keep moving forward towards the financial goals, I think, because I didn't see them as being possible. Even though I'd set them, I didn't see them being possible. I actually probably assumed I would fail, and I'm not.
And again, congratulations. That's a testament to the hard work that you've put in, not only for the goals financially, but then on yourself as well, and all of the development that you've experienced. And through this process, it's just been brilliant for me to be able to witness that.
But I get to be the one changing, but I get to have you in my corner as well, which has been amazing to have that, because this wouldn't have been possible without it.
Well, I really appreciate that. And actually it brings me to the next question, which is, if you were to summarize the impact that I've had on your life, so me personally, if you were to summarize that in a sentence or even a paragraph, what would that look like for you?
It's allowed me to build the business I wanted to begin with, and I wouldn't have been able to have done that. I wouldn't have known where to start it. I would have still been burying my head in the sand when it came to figures and money. And now I'm more confident in doing it. I want to see the figures. I want to look at them every day. I want to be able to see where I'm going and what I need to do. So it's just allowed me to develop the things that I thought I couldn't do, but I now know I can.
Thank you so much for those lovely words. And it feels to me like we've created a real win-win situation here. And that's really important for me when I work with a client. So aligned with that, I'd love you to tell me a little bit more about what you do, who you serve, who's the target market, and tell me a little bit more about what you're really playing for in business.
My program's called Emotion Mind Dynamic. I create happiness and harmony in overwhelmed families, adults and children, and business and with athletes as well. I absolutely love the process. It's just a quick process, but it really gets to the emotional root of the mental health issues. It's just so exciting to see people go from just existing to completely living and empowered. I'm just so glad I can do the job. So I'm just started my licensing training. It's a new development. It's been on the cards for about a year. Again, I probably didn't see it possible until I suppose your encouragement really to get it done, to actually meet people and invite people to come and see what's possible with the licensing. And then having that experience of them telling me that they're just so excited and grateful that I chose them to come and be a licensee. So that's my new development this year. I've got lots of programs I am using or I will be developing as a result of EMD. So EMD is all about mental health and mental well-being, but we're going to have a self-development program, a parenting program, and a relationship program as well, which will come from EMD. And the long-term goal is the ranch, a sustainable ranch.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you about that. Tell us what the ranch is.
Well, it's a 10-bed facility where people can come and stay for the duration of EMD while they're on the programme, or they can come for the day and do their sessions. But there'll be a livable farm there. So there'll be food growing, there'll be animals on the farm, there'll be a chef there, there'll be things like yoga, all the stuff around health, holistic health will be on the ranch itself, as well as a residential facility for children who are looked after, and mother and baby placements as well. So I'm looking at a big project, and I'm seeing some of the roots being set down now.
It sounds amazing, and as you're talking about it, I can actually see the pictures of what it would look like, and what an amazing facility for people to have while they go through that transformative process that you've created. So I am so excited to see you bring this into fruition, and I have no doubt at all that you absolutely will.
I doubted myself for a while. I don't anymore. So thank you.
Wow, that's brilliant. Hayley, and final question from me. So many people are really interested in being on this journey with me. What would you say to those that are thinking about it and not quite sure?
Don't hesitate, just do it. It's been so enlightening and insightful, and just brought about this business development that I didn't think was possible. Even though I wanted it, I didn't think it was possible. But working with you and having my hand held throughout that process and learning all the things I've learned, it would be silly not to do it.
Amazing. Hayley, thank you for coming all the way down from Wales to London for today. I really appreciate your presence. I really appreciate how coachable you've made yourself. And it's just great. I've loved every single minute of seeing the transformation that you've had. So well done, and let's keep it going.
Thank you. I very much appreciate your time and your energy this last year. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.